Okay. Vic, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your service.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And you mentioned that you're a dual member. You're a Legion member and a Sons member.
Yes.
And this interview, good afternoon. It is July 11th. My name is Thomas Cisna, conducting an oral history interview at the Illinois State Convention in Springfield, Illinois, with Vic Martinka. Vic, when you started your career, what was the era that was at the time?
It was the early to mid 60s when Vietnam was just beginning to escalate.
Were you living at home?
I was living at home. I had just completed 2 years of college at University of Illinois when it was still at Navy Pier.
Oh, really?
And
that was before
they had just got around to breaking ground for the new Chicago campus, but we were still at Navy Pier.
Okay.
I had completed 2 years, ran out of money, and the idea was to work for a year or so, get enough money to be able to transfer down to Champaign. Well, they escalated the war, and back then you kind of like had 4 choices. You could go to school full time, get married, have a couple of kids real quick, run off to Canada, or wait to get drafted. So I figured if I'm going to get drafted, I might as well enlist, and I enlisted in the Air Force because my dad served in World War II in the Army Air Corps.
In the Army Air Corps,
Yes.
I see. Okay.
So the Air Force was the new Army Air Corps, so I enlisted in the Air Force.
What year?
I was 1966.
66. Oh, 66. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a little bit of the Vietnam War had been on the television and in the papers. I mean, not much.
Yeah.
But as a kid going to school, was that the buzz around campus was when the draft cards are coming in? And
Yeah, they were talking about that, and then they had gone from the actual draft to a lottery, and based on your birthday, they were picking numbers, and my birthday fell their way, would have a low number, so it was just a matter of time, not if.
So you were already away from home, so it wasn't going to be a.
Well, I was living in LaGrange Park at the time, so I'd commute to school and that, so I was still living at home. But
Okay, still true. Do you have any? It was just your mom and dad and you at home?
Yeah, my mom and dad. I had a younger brother and a younger sister.
Okay.
I was the oldest of the 3 of us.
How'd they take to your decision to enlist?
Well, I don't think they really knew what was going on because there was quite an age difference between us. My brother was like 16 years younger, and my sister was like 8 or 9 years younger. So
What'd your parents think?
Well, Mom wasn't too happy, and Dad was kind of, knew it was going to happen anyway because.
He was resigned to the fact that anyway.
Everybody's getting drafted, and there were 3 of us that grew up together. Mike Riley lived in LaGrange, and Gary Becker lived right behind us, and we went to school together, did everything together, and they had gotten drafted, so.
They'd already been drafted.
Just a matter of time.
How much before, or how when they got drafted, how much of the time did you make the decision to?
Pretty much after Mike got drafted, pretty much right away, because I figured everybody's going anyway, so we might as well do it.
They're coming to get you soon.
Yeah.
At least you got to make a choice.
Yes.
At that time you could sign up.
The sad part is they both went in the Army. Mike was in Vietnam a couple months when he got killed in a firefight, and he didn't make it home. And Gary had put his urine. He was waiting at the airport to get on the plane to come home. And what the Viet Cong would do is they would sneak up on the airbase or whatever, start lobbing in mortars. Everybody ran to the bunker. And the last round to come in was a direct hit on his bunker.
Oh my.
So he came, within hours or minutes of making it home. So.
Oh my God.
3 of us went there, and I was the only one to make it back.
I wanted to make it back. So you went somewhat at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, was there a recruiting station there in LaGrange?
Oh yes, there was a kind of an all-purpose. They had Army, Navy, Air Force, everybody in there, and
common area.
Yeah. Well, so I asked him. I said, "If I enlisted, how does this work?" He said, "Well, we'll get you on." It was a delayed enlistment. I actually signed up in February. I didn't go on active duty until April, so I had a copy of a delayed enlistment. So when I did get my draft notice, I went down there, and they says, "Is there any reason you should not be drafted into the Army?" I said, "Yes, I got this piece of paper. I'm already in the Air Force." Looked at it, said, "Okay, you can go home." So.
Oh wow! Oh, so the draft was mostly the Army then?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Oh, okay.
They were looking, and as soon as they saw that I was enlisted in the Air Force, just waiting for active duty orders, they said, "Okay, we'll go home." And
go home and wait for your orders to come in. Oh, so you were back up. Now, did you stay in school until your?
No, I was working full time.
Okay.
I had taken pretty much all the classes I could take at Navy Pier, and the next step would be to go down to Champaign, and we didn't have the money for that, so.
Okay. It costs a lot to go to
That's how I was
college.
working, so.
Oh, okay.
And you didn't have as many scholarships and avenues of funds that you have today. It was pretty much, you didn't have a job or something. It was,
Yeah, that's the way it was, and
Yeah.
in '66, oh, that's exactly the way it was. I mean, you went out and worked, made money, and
Yep,
and
it was 50 years ago, and that,
yeah, yes, it
times
was.
were different.
How'd your boss take it? I mean, did he?
He didn't, wasn't too happy about it, but as it turned out, after I'd been gone a short time, I was working for Sears at the time, and they were shutting down the smaller stores, so the store closed up anyway.
Oh, so you're gonna be out of a job?
Well, but they were transferring people at other stores, because when I did come back, they offered me a job, but I was looking for something different by then.
When you're waiting in the you're waiting on the mail, and it finally comes. I mean, was it? And I don't know what they. I've seen pictures like draft notices.
Yeah.
Did it come in a manila envelope?
Just an
or-
envelope. I forget the wording on it, but it was just a report to you went downtown on Canal Street or something, and it was like they had an induction center down just west of the Loop
Okay.
on Jackson, I think it was. And
So,
I went down there and.
And they brought your paperwork with you, and is it okay? Here you go. And now, did they bus you someplace or train
Well,
you?
when I actually went in April, when we got there were all kind of people, they'd call your name out. And what happened was, they needed some people right away, and they had apparently predetermined I was gonna be a ground radio operator. Because they're calling you back when Lackland Air Force Base was a full 8 weeks of basic training. They needed bodies right away, so we were sent to Amarillo Air Force Base for basic training, and that was a 30-day in and out. They just got you the basics, get in, get out,
Oh my
sent you
God.
to school, and then out in the field. They didn't,
Oh my!
So we had a short basic training, but it was pretty much 7 days a week.
4-week basic.
They just rammed everything in they could, and then from there went to Biloxi, Mississippi for radio operator school.
Well, when you got to Amarillo, how many of you went?
There were just 4 of us from Chicago.
Oh,
yeah.
Just the 4?
Yeah, we flew in, we went from Chicago, flew into Amarillo, and a military bus picked us up and took us to the air base, and we had a regular 32 people squadron. And
Did they? Now by the time you got there, did you hear the horror stories about the guys that come in with long hair and they set them in the barber chair and they,
yeah, oh yeah, you got the haircut and the whole 9 yards.
Did you have long hair at the time?
No, I had hair at the time. Wasn't
Okay.
really long, but I did have hair at the time.
Did
So.
any one of the 4 have long hair? Or?
No, nothing was really too
Okay, so it
outrageous.
was
So yeah, pretty normal in that.
So it wasn't a big traumatic
No,
thing to
nobody was really.
you just sit down,
Yeah,
buzz,
you
and,
got the haircut and you got your stuff and give you a cardboard box and put all your clothes, everything in here, and you made out an address label yourself, you put it on a cart and you shipped it home.
Shipped all your
Yep.
civilian clothes
Yep.
home, and now it's all
Take
Air
a shower
Force.
and you come out, here's all your new stuff, and you're
How many
you're
uniforms?
in the Air Force.
How many uniforms did you get?
We had the green basic, fatigues, and then they had, it was a khaki uniform for, more formal. It wasn't really the dress uniform, but they had the khakis that you wear.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, I see them now and they're blue. It's dark blue pants and
Yeah, the
light blue.
dress uniform was blue.
Okay, those are dress.
Yeah. That's still the same. That
Okay,
was
so
the
your
dress uniform.
khakis are your
Kind of
work.
like if you had an office job or something, if you were out in a more physical type job, you'd wear your green fatigues all the time. If you had an office type job, you could wear the khakis.
Oh,
In the
okay.
wintertime, they'd wear the dress uniform, to work and stuff like that.
So you went from home cooking to now you're on a base. I mean, is this a large base in Amarillo? I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, Amarillo is a good sized air base.
Is it? I mean,
Yep.
we're talking hundreds and
Yep.
hundreds and hundreds of acres of land there. Yeah, and an airport. I'm sure they had
Oh, yeah.
a base there. So 4 weeks is not a long time. So were all the guys in shape? I mean, you got to a platoon.
Yes.
Okay, they brought you 4.
Well, there was this one group, the flight squadron, group wing, so this was like a squadron, just 32 guys in it.
Okay. So it's physical training of a morning. I mean, you had a
Yeah,
routine. that-
pretty much, did a little bit of everything. You learned, the military way to do stuff, how to fold your clothes and how to arrange your closet, how to arrange your little drawer you had to keep all your stuff in, and how to make the bed and
So
the
you're-
marching and everything
In
that
barracks.
was done in normal basic training.
And
he
you're in
just
barracks.
condensed it.
Now, the 4 guys that you went with, do you remember their names?
No, that I don't think.
You remember anybody from the barracks?
Not really. I still got the picture though from when we graduated basic training.
When well, and basic training, since it's so quick, I mean, did they a lot of physical training quickly? I mean,
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything every day.
marching and push-ups
Yeah,
and
the whole.
your drill instructor. Do you remember his name?
He was a tech sergeant though.
A tech sergeant.
Yep.
Okay. Did he have an assistant? Some have senior and junior.
They had a couple of assistants helping them out.
uh,
I don't remember what their names were.
Yelling and screaming at the kids. And,
Oh yeah, you gotta learn to you learn to listen quick.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was 20 at the time.
Okay.
Because
So
when I got down to Biloxi for training is when I turned 21.
so you would have been a little bit older than
Some of the guys, yeah.
Yeah, they would all been in the 18, 19 range or 18,
Yeah, pretty
17,
much.
some of them I'm sure. Being away from home really for the first time, I mean,
It was different. Yeah, it was
hard to sleep at night.
outside of going to camp once when I was young, and that was the first time we got away from home.
Yeah,
So
long ways
that
away
was
from
different.
home.
Yeah.
We're since it was only a month. I mean, did you write to your parents or?
Yeah, what they did, they had you write a letter. I got here okay, and then here's my stuff. I had sent all your clothes home and stuff like that.
Really?
Yep.
Put your pen and paper in front of you and say, you will write home.
Oh yeah, you had to write home and then give them your address so somebody could contact you and they know you got there. You didn't just disappear.
Oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
so we had to write a letter. Hi, I got here okay. This is my address, and you had to print it all out for them. And
in 4 weeks, I mean, did you have weekends off?
I got half a day on Sunday. Got Sunday mornings off.
Oh,
But outside of that, it was pretty much early morning to late at night because they had to get everything done that would have taken 8 weeks. They condensed in 30
Man
days. So
alive, you come back to your cot and you just dropped from exhaustion, didn't you?
just about.
Oh.
Fortunately, it was springtime, so it was in Texas.
Yeah.
So it'd be cold in the morning, but they would warm up in the daytime. And
Thank goodness it wasn't July or August in
yeah,
Texas.
they get you up at 5 in the morning and it's cold outside, but by noontime, the short sleeves are just fine.
Oh my goodness
So
gracious.
that's
What?
the-
Yeah, and you went from home cooking to
Yeah, 100,
Chow line.
people on the chow line. Yep.
okay. So we're talking the metal trays that had
You
all the
had a
little
tray
stuff.
and you get a scoop of this and a scoop of this and a scoop of this. And
Yeah. Was it any good?
yeah, most of it was pretty good.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Well, at least-
some of the guys were fussy eaters, they pick at it, but if you adapt to the situation.
if you're hungry, you'll eat
Yeah,
and clean your plate off.
yep.
Did you have any duties other than the training that you were doing? Did you have any?
Well, what they did is between like 9, 10 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning, you would take turn. Everybody had to do a 2-hour guard duty, and you would just one guy would stand outside the door to the barracks, and the other would just walk up and down the hall. And then after 2 hours, you have to switch off just to get which it's the military, not a college campus or something. So
Oh my goodness
if
gracious!
you got 10 to 12, it wasn't bad, but you got the 2 to 4 shift, you just about got to sleep. You had to get up, and 4 o'clock, can't go back to sleep for an hour. So
Oh my
it
goodness.
made for a short night. But 32 people were taking turns at it, so it didn't happen all that often.
Okay, so you'd only be wore out so much of the time.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was interesting though.
Was everybody there for just the month? I mean, just the 4
Yeah,
weeks?
everybody got in and out of there, and then the day or the day before the end, we got our orders of where we're going, and different school. I was the only one to go to radio school.
Okay, so
The other
you
guys all went
finished
different
4
places.
weeks of just your basic regimentation, marching, physical.
Yeah, very basic orientation to the Air Force and military life. So.
And yeah, military life and what it's like to take orders and
then-
have people yelling at you.
Yeah, and then as soon as you got done, you graduated, you got your first stripe.
Oh, you got it. So
Yeah.
it was private.
So it went from the Airman Basic to Airman Third Class.
Airman basic to
Yeah,
airman
see,
third.
they were calling them different now. Back then it was Airman Basic, then Third Class, Second Class, First Class. Now
Oh.
they go just the other way around. And
Oh.
back then, 3 stripes was the sergeant, because again, they needed NCO, so being a E4, I was a sergeant, even though now you gotta be an E4 like airman first class or something.
Well, now
Back then you were sergeant, so you got
when you got that stripe, you were what, what ranking would that have been then?
E1 or E2.
Does that come with a check?
Yeah, you got a few bucks more, and you had to show the stripe on our uniforms before you could go to your next duty assignment.
A silver stripe.
No, it's just single stripe. Therefore, you just have the circle with the wing on it.
Yeah.
We had to get those all sewed on, so when you went to your next base, you were in uniform. You couldn't, otherwise you were out of uniform because you had the wrong ranking on.
And I've been wondering now. I've seen the shirts before, and I've seen the emblems. The one stripe with the star, and that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that was the first one.
The star with the wings on it. Some of the stars are full, and some of them have a hole.
Yeah, that changed. Some have a star inside, some were just a circle.
Right.
It just kind of changes as time went on.
Okay, so that's just a basic change
Yeah.
in their emblem. So you sewed it on yourself, or you take it to?
Well, there you sewed them on yourself. You had time to give you time to do it. You sit there and you didn't do it good, but you got them sewn on just to get you to the next base. Then when you got there, you went to the laundry off base, and for a couple of bucks, here's all your uniforms, the stripes, they sew them on for you, and it was done properly. But,
cottage industry there.
yeah, but you had to have that first stripe sewn on. So when you went from here to there, you were in uniform. You can't be out of uniform.
That would be bad.
Yes.
And they pick on guys that are out of uniform, I'm sure. They have a laundry service there during basic. I mean, you guys are.
Yeah, they have the washing machines, a couple of washing machines and dryers, and you team up with somebody, come on, let's do clothes, and you cram as much stuff in the washer as you can.
Oh, okay.
Because you had a marking pen and you had to put down, instead of, now they use social security numbers. Back then you had an actual Air Force identification number.
Mm-hmm.
And you would use the first initial of your last name and then the last 4 digits of your ID number. That was your marking on everything.
Your dog tags.
Yeah, like.
Now, were you issued dog tags?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I got official dog tags.
Okay. Now, they were just the metal stamped?
Yeah, just the regular, name and
blood type
and religion and the basic stuff on there.
Oh, okay. Now, 2, 4?
We have 2 of them.
Just 2?
You have the long one and then the short one on the second one that hang down a couple inches below it.
You wear them all the time?
Then you did, yes.
Okay, for identification.
Yep.
Huh, how about that? I didn't.
Yeah, that was it. You had the long one and then you had the short one.
But you did your own laundry. I mean,
Yeah, once you got out of, even in basic, you did your own laundry. Yeah.
Oh, so there wasn't a service on the base where you dropped stuff off. You just.
When you got to regular duty side, yeah, you could do it yourself, or like basic stuff you did. Sometimes uniform you take to the off-base cleaners, because then they had to be nice and starched and all that stuff instead of washing it and spraying and ironing and all that stuff.
Oh,
just
yeah.
took it there, and it cost you a couple of bucks, but
that's
you had a
tough.
nice crease and all the stuff they wanted.
Well, I mean, the government is now you're on the payroll.
Yep.
You've got a little bit of money. I mean, yeah, that is your job at the moment. So you got any in 4 weeks' time? I don't know whether any shenanigans in the barracks.
Didn't have too much time for nothing. It was just up at 5 and 9, 10 o'clock you were going to bed, and if you didn't have guard duty, you got to sleep that night. If you did, then you were up somewhere in between.
So it was up and down.
Yeah, it was a in-out deal to get you off to your next station.
Nobody playing grab ass at night because everybody's tired.
Everybody,
leave me alone.
Everybody worked along, and you got in, you got out.
So you count the days down basic? That you knew that this was going to all end?
Yeah, I think I don't remember so much happened. I don't think we had too much time to do that.
So you got done, and then your next advanced training.
Yeah, from there I went to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Hot.
That was hot, yeah.
I mean, you're there in April.
I was in school. I had class 5 days a week they had 6 till noon to 6 in radio operators. And I went on the noon to 6, 5 days a week. But what was nice was Friday night you get off at 6 o'clock. As long as you were back where you're supposed to be at 6 o'clock Monday morning, you wanted to go into town or do something, it didn't matter. And we could go 100 miles, and New Orleans was like 90 away. Wow. So every once in a while, somebody, hop in somebody's car and go down to New Orleans for the weekend and come back. And
how long was the radio school?
Let's see, I did that from May, June, July, August. That was like 12 weeks. maybe 16 weeks, but at least 12.
Now, during this time you're at in Biloxi, did they still keep up with the training? I mean, as far as physical training.
Pretty much you were on your own. They didn't bother you on that, but a lot of guys would still go running and doing stuff on that. But
okay. Any weapons training? I mean, had they?
No, that was done in basic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I qualified for marksmanship, the expert on that.
Oh, expert?
Yeah, M16.
Okay.
I qualified on that.
And M16.
And 16.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was. I thought 66. Some of them were still using the 14s, the M14s, weren't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had the M16.
You had the new ones then.
Yes.
Okay. Nice firing weapon.
Oh yeah.
They jam very much. You know, they got the notorious myth that it jammed.
Well, when I was the problem I guess they were having was they were either using the amount of powder in the bullet. They tried to save, and they were using the lesser grade or something. That's what was part of the problem, I'm understanding.
Oh, really?
What we had the good bullets and stuff, and we didn't have too much problem.
Okay. So, I mean, you had, you got trained on the M16.
Yes.
And you're expert. Those targets are a long ways.
Oh, yeah.
Long ways down there. What about grenades?
No, we didn't. The Air Force didn't get into anything like that.
Just
no.
M16 training?
M16, yeah.
How to load it? I mean, they shoot on automatic?
Yeah, take it apart. It was either full automatic or single shot.
What was it
and
like?
You had to qualify with both.
What was it like with automatic?
And it zeroed up, and it was it. It knocked out the 20 clips real quick, but it went.
Really?
It just had a.
It rode up on you. Oh wow! Okay.
It went up.
Shooting to the sky as soon as you get down.
Yes, you weren't paying attention.
Oh, okay. Anybody get hurt out on the range or?
Not when I was around there, no.
Okay. You always hear those stories that one guy it jammed on him and he turns this way to show.
Yeah. No, we were fortunate and didn't have any problems like that.
Oh well, good. What was radio school like? I mean, that was.
What basically was this was before computers and cell phones and stuff. You had landline telephone, and the idea of we called Mars Military Affiliate Radio System, and this was the backup communications. If the phone lines went down, we could still communicate between bases or
stuff
this like that. That was the backup communication. Yes.
Forgive me. Something like a ham.
Yeah, like a ham. And
okay.
for what we did during the day, just to keep the skills up and have stuff to do, you could send messages, go down to the Mars station, and you could, I want to call home or something. So then what you would do is you'd write the message, and then we would go from, I was in New Mexico at that time, and we were the net control station, so we would tell who to call another base, and then they would relay a message from here to from down there to Scott Air Force Base. And then at nighttime, Scott Air Force Base relay it to a ham that lives in Brookfield, which is a town away. And then he'd pick up the phone and call my parents. Hey, you got a message from your son. He's coming home on the 19th or something.
Oh,
so
man.
It's faster than putting a stamp and mailing something.
Yeah.
Plus, it kept everybody proficient because you used the regular radio procedures and relaying the message, and you kept up your typing skills and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, it took that long. I mean, are we talking a huge radio operation?
Maybe yay by yay, and they were kind of stacked up. One was the receiver, one was the transmitter, and you had a mic, and you'd key it to talk and release to listen.
Mm-hmm. Well, you still had to dial in the frequencies and.
Yeah, well, pretty much we stayed on the same frequency all the time.
Okay.
They had others, but it was a main frequency that you stayed on, and then the secondary one was that you'd use at night to go from the air base to the different hams. They had their own network.
Okay.
And they kind of get together. And
oh, well, that's.
You got to know them because they were all, pretty much talking to the same people all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's what communication was all about.
Yeah.
During your 12 weeks there, were you housed in a barracks?
Yeah, it was like a college dorm. There were 2 to a room.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it was pretty good. Yeah, we had 2 beds, and you had to keep, they had inspection and stuff, so make sure the floor didn't get scuffed up. You always took your shoes off and went inside. That way you didn't bring in the mud and the dirt and scuff up the floor.
Didn't have to clean it.
Get ready to go. Yep. Put your shoes on and
laundry service there. I mean,
they had washers and dryers in the building.
Okay, so you
didn't cost anything to use them, but yeah, you pretty much do it except your fatigues and those. You again take them down to the cleaner, so
Yeah,
we got
but-
them all pressed and starched. And
All the sheets and all that stuff, you do all that stuff right
yeah,
there.
you do that yourself, yeah. That
Okay.
was no
Well,
problem.
yeah, it's kind of like dorm limit. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not too bad yet.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a full barracks where there were 30-some people living in. It was like, like a college dorm, there's 2-man rooms, and
Okay.
that wasn't too bad.
How many floors does it have a?
I think we had 3 4-story buildings.
Okay.
Some were 3, some were 4 stories.
Okay, and this is all radio operators.
This was anybody, 'cause it was Kessler was a big air base to start with, and then they had the radio, different type of radio operators. We did the actual communications, but they had guys that were trained as interceptors, where they had to learn the Morse code, so when they would sit
Oh.
there, some days, hours on end to listen to dots and dashes and writing it down, see what was going on here and there.
Did you learn any of that?
No, I didn't have to get into that, fortunately.
That's a whole big vocabulary there.
Yes, that's a whole other world.
Of dots and dashes. So you had to have relatively good hearing. I mean, it can't be like crystal clear phone calls like it is
No.
today, or a little
Yeah,
scratchy.
it was scratchy, yeah, and you learned to pick up, somebody, I can't hear that. Well, you learn to train your ear that you pick up on certain things, and you kind of know what's supposed to happen in what order and stuff like that, so you kind of know what's going on.
And call letters.
Yeah, there's different call signs, and then we had to learn how to do weather reports, so, when they're flying, they need to know what the weather is up there.
Okay.
'Cause
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Vietnam, we would check in, and they'd have to tell us what the weather was, so we could, the planes are gonna be flying today, they're not gonna be flying, and
so you see.
stuff like that.
So you got through your 12 weeks. You did 4 of basic, but you
Yep.
had 12 of
12 of radio
training.
school, yep.
Now, were you trained on the backpack radios? that
No,
they had?
just the council unit,
Huh?
just the council unit.
Oh, just the
Yeah,
council.
you got on the backpack.
Okay. After 12 weeks, did you know where you were headed? I mean,
Well, that was an interesting thing. That was probably the first and only time all the airlines were on strike at the same time. And I'm in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I had to get to Clovis, New Mexico. And we had like 2 weeks to do it. So,
Oh my.
4 of us got together and threw in a couple bucks a piece, and we bought a beater car for $100 and drove it nonstop from Biloxi, Mississippi into the Chicago area. The last guy dropped off, got to keep the car. We just wanted to get home.
Oh my.
And then when it was time to go back, I had to take the Santa Fe Railroad from Chicago. Fortunately, the train went right through Clovis, New Mexico, so I was able to take the train.
Wow.
I don't remember all the circumstances, but in '66, the airline industry was all on strike. You
Yeah.
couldn't fly anywhere,
Yeah.
so it was trains or
Train or-
nothing. And
yeah.
So.
Yeah. There was,
And
I
we
mean,
just got a beater car and got home because there happened to be 4 guys all trying to get to Chicago. So okay, so we got a car and
well, yeah. You're just kids. That's not bad. That's just a road trip.
yeah, we took a turn driving and just kept put gas in and keep going. So,
Oh, you just drove straight through.
yeah, we just
Oh,
took
my
turns
goodness.
driving and stopped for gas, something to eat, and get back in the car. And
Well, so when you got done with your training, you had how much time did you have
I think
off?
we had 2 weeks.
2 weeks to get to
about 2 weeks
to get to Clovis.
Clovis.
Okay.
It took us about a day or so to get home, and a couple of days on the train. Train left
mil-
one afternoon, got in about noon the next day.
So the military just said, okay, you're free to go. In 2 weeks, you need to be here.
Yeah, as long as you're there,
Yeah, yeah. By hook or by crook.
do what you want, how you do it, but you had to get there.
They weren't going to provide transportation,
Yeah.
so you had to find your
You
own.
had to find your own.
So what was it like coming back home? You'd been
It was nice. I saw everybody, and they had, it was just kind of different. You had pretty much packed up all my stuff so it wouldn't get messed up for 4 years. I knew I'd be gone for 4 years, so.
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot of
you,
stuff
you came back in your uniform, though, didn't you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much came back in uniform, and then
See, now at that point in time, it wasn't in '66. It wasn't that bad. I mean, you came home. Would have been what, in August?
yeah, we got
Yeah.
at the end of August there,
Yeah.
so it wasn't too bad. They still weren't harassing too many people.
Okay, so it wasn't. You didn't get
No, not
rocks
like
thrown at you. And,
69 when I was it was a whole different animal. A couple
No,
years later, but
yeah, and yes, it was. What was your mom and dad like when you got back home?
oh, they happy to see me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and we had to celebrate my birthday because I had spent it down in Mississippi, so we had a 21st birthday party and had some friends over and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Do
it went quick.
Did your brother and sister remember you coming back home?
I know we don't talk too much about it. They just, they were kind of young at the time, and we see each other and that, but nobody really says too much about it. So
Okay.
And
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know. It was just, you've been gone, you know, that's a little upset to the family, so.
Yeah.
You come back and, you know, now you're lean and mean and all dressed up in your uniform. What type of cap is these?
Yeah, we had a cap like that, and then we had the regular, like a bus driver's cap, a regular uniform cap.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a baseball type fatigue cap that we'd wear with the greens.
Okay.
If you wear your the khaki, then you had to wear either this cap or the uniform cap. But with the fatigues, you wore your baseball cap.
Did you know where you were going when you got done with your training and you headed back home and you got a report back in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I knew I had a report to Clovis.
Yeah.
I knew that at the time.
Do you know where you were going after Clovis?
No, I was there for 2.5 years.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was there a long time.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yep.
So you stayed stateside?
Yeah, pretty much. I was stateside for the first 2.5 years there. That was.
Okay. So, I mean, Clovis is a base.
Yeah, it was it's kind of a triangle. You got Amarillo, Texas, Lubbock, Texas, and Clovis, New Mexico. They're all about 60 miles or 90 miles apart. And it was just a few miles into, just west of the border between New Mexico and Texas. So just barely in New Mexico, but it was New Mexico.
Okay.
And from the town to the base was 20 miles, and there wasn't a blade of grass, a hill. It was flat. You'd see lights at nighttime, and one end was the base, and the other end was the town.
Oh my
There was
goodness.
nothing.
Oh my.
Nothing.
Miles
in
and
between.
miles
It was
and miles and
It
miles.
was flat. Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious, yeah. And hot.
Yes.
That'd been.
Well, the wintertime, it'd get down in the teens, and you get a couple inches of snow. Leave it alone by mid-morning, it was up in the 40s and pretty much melted. So
Oh my goodness.
you didn't have, where you get snowed in or something, but
Yeah.
it would get cold at nighttime.
That's desert living, isn't it?
Yeah. That was,
What when you got to Clovis, were you what was the how your house? Back to barracks?
that was no, it was a like a college dorm. It was a 2-story building.
Okay.
Had maybe 60 rooms on each floor. Two people to a room. You had a locker. There was a desk you shared. 2 beds, and then there was a communal bathroom that one at each end.
Back to still in college.
Yeah.
Still in the college
No,
dorm.
those incentives of getting the Air Force in the first place. a little better
Do
condition.
you remember your roommate?
We had several because people were constantly coming and going.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in the same room the whole time, but people were coming and going.
I mean, pilots, mechanics.
No, we were all enlisted. We had part of our floor was the weather squadron. They would do all the weather reports, and you had the radio operators, and the rest of it was communications. They'd work at the communications center or different stuff like that. It was all pretty much a communication barracks.
Okay, so when you got to Clovis, now had you advanced in rank?
Not yet.
Okay.
It took 18 months or something until I got the second stripe.
Okay. You went to work basically.
Yeah, and what we did, as I said, it was before computers and all this stuff. And what they did is we were the net control station, and they had 8 or 10 other air bases in our network.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would do is every morning at 7 o'clock, which was, 8 o'clock here, 9 o'clock on the East Coast, we would do a roll call of the other bases. They would check in, and they tell us if they had any messages to transfer around.
Oh,
And then
okay.
we would call, okay, you call here, then you call here. We just kind of, with the net control station, we coordinate everything
Wow.
with what was going on. And we did that from, we were at the station from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. We kept this thing going.
Yeah, I was
And then the other bases, we didn't have a night network, but the other ones had a night network where they would then get in touch with the ham operators and keep the thing going for a while.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was fun.
Back and then you're on a base again. So I mean, the chow's still at the chow hall. And
Yeah.
You just show up and I mean,
Yep, you had an ID card, and you
Okay.
just go up there, you show them your card, and the food was pretty good. And you had a variety. You always had maybe 2 or 3 things to eat. You didn't have to have the same thing, or then you got they'd serve the stuff on a plate. You didn't get a scoop of this. You actually had a tray with plates and cups and sauce. A little fancier than just taking a tin tin thing, you get a scoop of this and a scoop of that.
Yeah, and pretty good chow.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, did they have? You're in New Mexico, so was it local menu? I mean,
Pretty much regular kind of food. Yeah, nothing exciting.
Okay.
A good variety.
Did now you were stationed there for 2 years?
Yeah.
Did you have leave?
Oh yeah, I'd come home and leave every once in a while.
But
then you had to get into town, and you had to fly from Clovis on Trans Texas Airlines. I think it was. It went to Lubbock and Aberdeen, and here, many stops later, you finally got to Dallas, where you could fly from Dallas to Chicago.
Oh my!
But
arduous adventure to get just to get home.
It was a journey, and then every once in a while they would work with a reserve unit on the weekend, and sometimes we do that. That was fun. We did fly to another place. One time we flew into Peoria and worked with the Air National Guard out of there.
Now flew. I mean, were you talking about a transport plane, or
it was a military plane. It was a group they put together to come, have regular Air Force people work with the reserves.
Oh, okay.
So we flew in there. And the interesting thing there was we were trying to come back on Sunday, and everything was fogged in. Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, you name it, everything was shut down with fog. So the captain says, we're going. And I guess Tower we shut down. He said, there's nobody flying. He taxied to the end of the runway in the fog, didn't hit nothing, turned around, took off in the fog, couldn't see nothing.
Oh my God.
There's nothing out there. Yeah. Once you got a couple hundred feet off the ground, it was bright sunshine, but everything was fogged in on the ground fog, and
are you gonna land?
Nothing was flying. Well, we didn't land there. We landed back, in New Mexico, where it was fine.
Okay. Took off in a dense fog.
Took off in a dense fog.
Oh my God. Taxied down to make sure there
didn't hit nothing, and turned around and went.
What a heck of a way to clear the runway. Here, let's take the plane down here and check out the runway.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness
that's
gracious.
the way they did it. So,
that is one way to do it.
Yeah. He was flying.
After Clovis, you had 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
I had one more thing that was fun down there. The military was trying to get people to enlist in the military. So what the Air Force did is they had a different kind of volleyball teams, and I did that for almost a year. Played volleyball for the Air Force, and you would fly into a town, leave Thursday morning, fly into a town somewhere, and go to the high school or this or that, college or something, just play volleyball. Hey, this is great. You're in the military, and you get to play volleyball. You're trying to get people to.
What are you playing against the college teams, or?
Yeah, that or other military teams and stuff. We just played volleyball for a year, and.
Oh my goodness!
And then you had a little dinner, and you talk to the people. Yeah, I'm the Air Force, and I'm playing volleyball, and tell them the good stuff. So you go ahead and sign up on that.
I'm playing volleyball in the Air Force,
which I was doing. So
they're paying me money.
Yeah, I did that for about a year, and then I came back to base one day, and all of a sudden I got noticed that you got orders to go. So then I thought.
Oh, so you were still in training. I mean, you were still doing your job.
Yeah, still doing everything, and then we played volleyball for about a year, and then from there I went over to Vietnam, and that's another story. We got into went home for a couple weeks, and then went from there to Seattle, and McCord Air Base is right next door. So we get to McCord Air Base, and this is when the riots and the protesting and all kind of stuff's going on. It was early August, and the Democratic convention was later on in August, and they were having all kind of stuff. So we got in a hangar, and they had everything painted shut. It was dark, and they put your stuff on a bus, and you got on the bus, and they went way out to the far end of the runway, loaded up, and the plane's taken off, and all of a sudden you see all these lights on the ground and stuff where the protesters were trying to keep the planes from taking off to go there. So they were running down the runway at the planes. We were taking off. So that's how we got out of.
People were running down the runway.
Yep, trying to block the planes so it couldn't take off, protesters and stuff. And that's why they went to the far end in the dark. Nobody knew just who or what. They'd start the plane and off you go. And
oh my goodness.
You were out of there before they.
What did it, so you were at Clovis, and you come back and there's orders. I mean, what kind of feeling was that? Did you have any inkling that you were going to go to Vietnam? Or?
Probably figured the way everybody was going, and in the meantime, Bill had gone there and got killed, and
okay.
Gary had gone there and got killed, and Mike had gone there and got killed. So thinking about that, and all of a sudden now I'm going over there, you know.
Wow. Yeah,
So
that
that
would be
was-
something to think about.
And then I get over there, and they, instead of being on the actual air base, I was sent to play coup. Instead of being on the air base, I was out in the field with the Army. We were calling in airstrikes, the troops that need air support, and brave but crazy guys. They were flying like the old 1E Bird Dog. It was like a Piper Cub.
Oh.
They're flying down, dropping the smoke, marking the position, so we could call the jets in. You know, there's the target, go this side or that side or whatever. And they were just a sidearm or an M16. They were flying down there. And afterward, on the news, they'd had body counts. We got to have how many were killed with a water buffalo or whatever. So after everything was done, they'd have to fly back over it and 30 bodies, 40 bodies, and we'd have to fill out a report on body count and relay that back. So McNamara was Secretary of Defense, and he figured there should be so many kills per so many bullets, and you know
they're counting the bullets.
Yeah, sure. They said, if you
my.
remember the evening news back in the late '60s, there would be the daily body count. How much, how the war is progressing.
I just didn't realize that they had to have so many bodies for so many
Yeah,
bullets
he wanted results for it. I guess he was head of Ford or some major company or something. He was looking for productivity, and they were looking for this kind of stuff. And so after we'd call in the airstrike, he'd have to go back and come up with a body count, how many water buffalo or how many. And the NVA, they'd be over. They had all these tunnels, so they were just bodies would disappear before you could.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do what's going on there.
You're not going to fly that little unarmed plane over an active area.
Yeah.
They'd
So
tear that plane.
Clean up and
tear that plane apart. When you now you left Seattle on a transport plane and you flew into Vietnam.
We flew from there into I think it was Yokota, Japan or something. We stopped in Japan to refuel, but then the plane would land in a certain spot, and there was like a dog run going from the plane into this hangar where you had snack shops and this and that. You couldn't get out of the building. The only place you could go was back up this dog run onto the plane. So if anybody someone had disappeared, cut out or something, there was no way to do it. You got off the plane and you had to get back on the plane.
They didn't want to lose any bodies on
nobody was getting out of that thing. But so you'd be on the ground for a couple hours while they refuel the plane and this and that.
What was open the plane door and get out? Was it hot in Japan?
It was nighttime. I think it was warm. I don't really remember, but it was dark at both times. It was nighttime.
You remember the smell? What would be when you got off the plane? I mean, you're still in a hangar, but it's a different country.
Yeah, it was different. I don't really remember, but it was. You knew it was different.
Something struck you as strange. Okay. Were the snack area, was it American food or was it?
It was pretty much American type stuff. They had hot dogs, nothing real big, just a little. Get some chips or a soda or ice cream or something like that, just a little.
And then on to Vietnam.
Yep.
Now, and you landed at a base.
Yeah, we landed and we flew into Cam Ranh Bay, and then they checked all your luggage, make sure you weren't bringing in something you shouldn't bring in. They searched you, make sure you didn't have anything hidden on you and you turned in all your American money, and you got this Vietnamese funny money.
Vietnamese funny money.
It was like Monopoly, but it was Vietnamese funny money, and you better not be caught with any greenbacks on you, because that was serious.
Really?
You had to turn in all your money. They didn't want it falling in the hands of the enemy or something, so you turned in all your U.S. money.
Really? I mean,
you got this display money.
Huh? How about that? I didn't realize that.
And then when I got there, they had big boards, and you found your name, and you look at, okay, I'm going to, and it said Nha Trang, so then you would find where the terminal was, that plane's going here. Okay, I got to go to Nha Trang, which happened to be just the other side of the South China Sea. It Cam Ranh Bay, and the other side was Nha Trang. So I hop on a plane, get over there, and went to the communications squadron. And he said, "Okay, you're going to Play Coup. Where's Play Coup?" And the sergeant said, "There's the map." So a couple 100 miles north is Play Coup.
Why?
So then you again went back there. I need a plane. Okay, I can get you. You're leaving in 2 days, so I just had to make sure you were there to get on that plane in 2 days. And it was like a shuttle, would just up and down, just keep stopping and dropping off. And you got to play cool, you were there.
A plane? I mean, it was a...
Yeah, it was a C-47.
Oh, okay.
And they just, just took this time, went up and down and up and down.
Yeah, fly to the next one.
Like taking a train down Headland. Okay, we're now at Pleiku. Everybody's getting off of Pleiku. So I had made sergeant by that time. So I get off the plane in Pleiku, and there was a staff sergeant. He says, "Martinka, that's me." He said, "Okay." So he drove in the Jeep. We pulled up in front of this building. He says, "They're waiting for you." So I go inside, and here's a helmet, here's a flak vest, here's an M16, here's a couple of clips, signed for all the stuff, you signed for it, which you weren't expecting, but it didn't seem odd because it was, in a war zone. And I come out, and Sergeant's sitting in the Jeep, but he's got his vest on, his helmet and everything. "Come on, let's go." So I put the stuff on and get in there, and he heads out the gate, goes about 100 yards and stops. "Now, what's going on?" He, "Well, did they tell you? Tell you what?" "Yeah, we're calling communication. We're calling an airstrike. You're not on the base." So I said, "Where are we going?" He says, "It's about 60 miles down the road, and the road's not secure." So here you got 2 Air Force sergeants in a Jeep driving 60 miles in Vietnam down the road to this little compound, which was just a couple of buildings with barbed wire around it.
What was the drive like? Vegetation? I mean, you got to be in a strange...
Oh, it's a beautiful country.
Yeah, you're in a strange land, but still.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was like a tropical paradise. It was real nice.
Once again,
up in the mountains.
Did the smell?
Yeah, well, they would bury the cabbage in the ground. They call it milk bomb or something. They would just take cabbage and put it in a clay pot and bury it in the ground.
Oh, kimchi.
And when it would sour, it's ready to eat. So the worse it smelled, the better it was. And
oh my God!
You smell that stuff and
that and the sound of the jungle too. There's
yeah,
different animals out there.
And the place we stayed at was an old French villa. We had a little miniature golf course there, and you had a outdoor swimming pool and kind of huts and stuff. It was nice conditions, but the only thing between you and the enemy was a couple of rows of barbed wire around the place. And in the daytime they left you alone, and nighttime they're always trying to sneak up and lob shells in at you.
Oh, really?
So again, back to guard duty. If you weren't working, you were walking the picket fence somewhere.
Really?
And in radio, we never knew what was going to happen when, so we manned the radios 24 hours a day. You worked 6 hours. You worked midnight till 6 in the morning, then you went back 6 at night till midnight, you went back from noon till 6 at night, and then 6 in the morning till noon, and it was just 24 hours, 7 days a week for almost, I did that for about 5-6 months.
Oh my goodness gracious.
That's all you did. Was just,
well, now at certain times there'll be activity though.
Oh yeah. In the daytime, that's when they would do the bombing runs and stuff like that, unless they had problems at nighttime.
So you're consulting weather charts and
yeah, calling in this and that, and we would just gather up the information out in the field and relay it back to the air base, and they would call in the Navy to get planes off a carrier, or planes out of Thailand, or planes off an air base.
And this is all done off of a shed with barbed wire around it in the jungle.
Little two-way radio, and it had sandbags around it, so hopefully if you got hit, you'd survive. And
were you attacked? I mean, were you shot at?
No, I didn't get any. We'd hear ground fire, but we never got actually shot at. But you'd hear a lot of the nighttime. They would just sneak up as close as they thought was safe, and they would just lob mortars in, and sometimes it would hit something. Most of the time, it didn't.
Okay.
But they weren't sophisticated. You didn't have all this, radar guided. They just lob it, put it in, boom, shoot off, and hope it hits something. And
that does make a distinctive sound coming out of the tube, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear you hear that.
Don't forget that, yeah.
And then the boom afterwards.
And then the sound of the Huey helicopter, you never forget that sound.
Yeah.
But they were all over the place.
I'm going to say you rode in a few of them, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did was it the same two people, you and somebody else out in the?
Well, there was we had the 2 pilots, and there maybe 6 of us with the an Army unit always would be out there.
Okay. Now, so there was an area that you slept in, or you stayed in?
Oh yeah, we had there was like a long barracks, and they had 20 cots in it or something. And
okay, so this is a pretty good sized area where
it was like a little French compound.
Yeah. Okay. I was almost thinking it was just one little shed out in the middle of the jungle. I'm like, well, they'll sneak up pretty close to that.
Oh yeah, they'd get up there, and
yeah,
it was interesting.
Running water in the villa?
Well, the water was something else. They didn't have running water. Well, yeah, they had running water for shower, but it wasn't the swiftest of stuff. And for drinking water, they would bring it in there, and sometimes you'd almost chew it. It was wet and it had this crud in it. So you took your canteen, you filled it up, you threw these 2 white pills, and it shook the heck out of it, and that was your water. So you learn, don't forget the Kool-Aid. As long as you dumped in some Kool-Aid, it was palatable. But sometimes it was almost, you're chewing it because it was, all this crud was in there, and these pills were supposed to make it safe, and the Kool-Aid killed the taste. So,
oh, dear.
that was your water.
How hot was it?
It got hot, and then what happened is all of a sudden one day it started raining and just forget to stop. Monsoon season hit, and all this beautiful countryside turned to red mud, and you couldn't stay dry because if you put a raincoat on or something, you get hot and sweaty underneath you, or worse with the raincoat than without it. And it would just rain and just forget to stop.
Oh my goodness. So getting around, I mean, the roads are not paved, of course. So
yeah, and once you're there, unless you went back to the base for some reason that you tried not to do because it was a long ride for one, and on the air base they were acting like in stateside, they wanted, shine shoes and uniform, and it was like an actual air base. So we were better off out in the field because the Army didn't mess with us because we were their communications.
Well, yeah.
And we counted on them for protection, so everybody worked together and everybody got along just fine.
So did it get intense as far as an airstrike? I mean, you've got a lot of, are you listening to the pilots
you
call in?
You could hear what they were doing and all this kind of stuff, and then you know where they're coming. You can see the planes, especially in the daytime, you'd see them come in there, and that's why, like a 4th of July fireworks, it's nice, but when you see the real thing, B-52 comes down and carpet bombs an area, and the ground is just shaking.
Oh, you can feel it from where
you can feel it, and all of a sudden, then you're seeing fireworks go off here, another one goes off there. That's nice, but when you see a jet come down and drop some napalm or some 750-pound bombs, that's fireworks.
Yeah.
The stuff to do with the village hall on the 4th of July isn't much of nothing.
Can you smell that napalm after?
Yeah, that's just jelly gasoline. It would stick, and whatever it sticks to, it would burn, and it didn't go out till it burned out. That was some nasty stuff.
Were you? Did they ever have any of the defoliant around?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's where we got some problems later on in the story. From Agent Orange, it was a defoliant, and there's all kinds of stuff you can get from it. And you're out there and they're dropping it, and you're walking through it a couple of days later, the next day or something, and it's in the water, it's in the ground, it's there, and it doesn't go away. It did its job. It killed everything it was supposed to, and then some.
It was defoliant. It was poison.
Sometimes I worry, was I the lucky one? Mike and Gary didn't make it back. I did, but they never got old. They don't have all the medical problems they have today, and they're not dealing with the stuff that. Yeah, who's the lucky one?
Well, there is a trade-off to having more birthdays than somebody else. I mean, soreness and all that goes. But you get to have another birthday. You get to stick around.
Oh yeah.
And you can always keep your friends. They're always with you.
Yep.
You can always remember them. So, did you call in the defoliant planes? I mean, were they part of?
No, that was something that somebody higher up, the Air Force took care of that stuff, and the regular bombing runs was all handled by the generals and stuff back in Washington. They would set all that up. We just said the actual troops would be in trouble, or they'd see a suspected enemy convoy or something. Hey, we need an airstrike here. Then the spotter plane would go in, mark his position.
Yeah. Now you said you could feel the ground. I mean, were they bombing that close?
Sometimes, yeah, it was pretty close. You knew there, especially B-52. It's way up there. When it comes down, it drops. If you ever seen the deal, it would cover the whole area. The craters are there, and you knew they were doing something.
That could still be up to a couple miles off.
They had the C-47, the gunship with the Gatling gun on it.
The Spooky or something like that.
Yep, and they take a pass over a football field, and you basically have one bullet in every square foot. It would just and it just
really
that thing would
So you
And you would see with every 10th bullet was a tracer, and you would have a steady line of red from the sky to the ground.
wow.
Just, and it just, you know,
I've seen it in films or on History Channel. I've never seen it in person.
yeah, it would bank and start making his run there, and
So you called
you didn't
those.
want to be below it.
You called those ships in.
Yeah, we'd call, we needed support, and then they would, you know, somebody else would decide what we would need, but we would tell them where it was and give them the position and stuff like that. And
So you're a very important part of what was going on
Yeah.
over there. I mean,
And then what they did after I was there, about 5-6 months, and the war was still escalating, in late '69. So then they got sent from Pleiku down to outside in the train, because they were trying to get that part of Vietnam, get the same network set up. Because at Pleiku we had like 12 or 14 more outposts that reported back to us, where they set up the same thing out in the Trang area, which was farther south. And we had a group there, and we had it set up so you knew what to do and how to do it and stuff like that. So that's why I was awarded the Air Force Commendation Medal for my work in helping set up the new section
they
there.
must have seen something in your work.
Well,
of wherever
from
you were
New
at.
Mexico, we were the net control station, and then they liked what I was doing in Pleiku, and they needed somebody to help set this thing up. So I was one of the ones that got selected to, good or bad, we got selected to go down there.
Did the same group that you were with, everybody go to the?
No, it was a new group they were forming.
Okay.
Just a couple of us that had the experience. And they
Okay.
took a couple of pilots, went down just to show somebody else how to do and what to do, and for training purposes. And we showed them what to do and how to set this thing up. And we had different call sign, different frequency and stuff like that.
So what were the accommodations at this next place?
That was more of a hut deal. It was maybe half mile from where we were at, and there wasn't any barbed wire around it. It was just kind of there, and hopefully you leave them alone, they leave you alone, and you walk there. Every place you went, you had your M16.
Well, yeah, you were your own protection there.
Yep.
There
And then you got there, it was a cement bunker that we had over in the train compared to just a hut over in Pleiku. So that was a little bit different, but everything else was the same. Once you got inside, you couldn't tell one from the other.
Oh, you still had the same set up network of
Yeah.
radios and receivers and
And
transmitters and.
There was on the back side of it, there was a small thing of barbed wire, and there were Vietnamese living, you know, like close as you and me. We're over here and they're over there, and the kids would come up and you'd give them candy, and sometimes they'd throw a grenade at us, and sometimes they'd just take the candy, and you know, they had these goofy mama-san hats, and all of a sudden there's a grenade going off, and every once in a while one of the guys would get hurt or something. But
Really?
I was fortunate enough not to have gotten involved with that.
Yeah.
And again, there was just this rusty barbed wire between you and the little village that was up there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you see the picture.
Did you have a big tower, a radio tower? out?
Yeah, it was a good size. It wasn't. I remember how big it was. More of just an antenna type thing. Wasn't
Okay,
real.
it wasn't like you'd see
With the
a couple
cell
stories
towers.
tall, or
No, it wasn't that bad.
you'd think that the
enough.
command center like that.
Like more like if I remember, it was more like an overgrown TV antenna.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then for the technology at the
Yeah,
time.
at the time
That was it. You'd think that for a communication center like that would be a prime target for the enemy, that they would be attacking it all the time. It's amazing they didn't have any more fortification than what you had.
Well, there was a different kind of war that you didn't have a front. You would take a town, then you go on to take the next town. It was, you got today, the Marines or Army would take a hill, and then they'd abandon it, and they'd take it over, and a couple months later they go back and take it again. There was a lot of that stuff. It wasn't where this is ours, and
now we protect it and stay here and
no, they just
move
they
on.
got to
while
move on to something else, and
then the enemy moved back
and
in.
forth. Yep,
Oh my goodness gracious!
that
That had to be frustrating.
So years later, they're still doing the same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan. Didn't learn anything the first time, but
No, still trying to do that conventional type of stuff.
Yeah.
It don't work. Not too well anyway. I mean, not saying anything bad about our military.
Well, they turned Vietnam over to South Vietnamese, and not long after, South Vietnam fell, and it's back to like what it was way back before the whole thing got started.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long were you at this place here?
Enough to finish up the year, because I got there in early August, and I left at the end of August, and I said, well, I've been here a year. Well, yeah, August to August. Well, when you do August twice, that's 13 months. Well, no, you were there for a year.
Yeah. Did okay? You're giving the local kids candy. Was there a local cuisine that you were? I mean, did they have food service there where you were at the communication center? Or?
Yeah, they had like a mess hall. We had it at the second place.
Okay.
The first one, they had a small mess hall, and they do a lot of barbecue and stuff because it was there, and they have the stuff whenever. But this is more like a base, not really a base, but more of a food military food service type.
Were you allowed to go into the villages?
You could. A lot of guys didn't mess around too much with that because you never knew what was there or what wasn't there, and I pretty much. I stayed away, but some of the guys went into town a lot. Except when you were walking between here and and then the deal, you were walking between this village or whatever. So
yeah, I mean you're walking through town or
through it or whatever.
Yeah. So, well, you can still smell them cooking and.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they eat different cuisine. You see I don't know if you've ever seen little dogs in cages getting ready to be supper or not, but. I've heard that is a food that they fix over there.
Oh yeah.
It is.
That, yep. And it was nice when the South China Sea was right by, so a group would get together and walk a couple blocks and you go to the South China Sea, one of the beaches. That was real clear water. It was pretty.
Oh wow.
Except it was hot. It was white sand, which was very hot.
Wow.
So once the sun got out there, you couldn't walk around the sand because you'd burn your feet and stuff. So
yeah,
you had to adapt there, but. That part wasn't too bad.
Oh well.
And then they'd call and start messing around again, start lobbing mortars, and then you realize you were in war.
You guys are out on the beach and they're lobbing mortars. Oh my God! How did I've seen the movies where they're surfing and they're shelling the beach, and so that part of that is true.
Maybe not to the extent of the movies, but yeah, there was stuff going on.
So you've got your year in.
Yep.
And I mean, are you coming close to a discharge?
Well, I still had till this was in August, and I still had to go until April. So
wow. Okay.
So
but you were in country for a year.
Yeah, I was in country for a year. So when I came back, I had a couple weeks off, and I went assigned to Scott Air Force Base in Southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. So then I went home, and I had gotten a car at the time. So I drove down to Scott, and then there were four of us that, again, got to know each other that lived in the Chicago area. So every Friday night, we'd get off at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, pile in somebody's car, drive up to Chicago for the weekend. Sunday night, you drive back down. As long as you were there Monday morning, everybody was happy. And so.
Well, now, you're getting ready to leave Vietnam, and, a short timer. Did you start counting the days?
Yeah, I had, when you got down to 100 days, you were a short timer.
Okay.
And then when you got down to the last couple, you were a two-digit midget. Two-digit midget when you got down to 99 days. And then the last 10 days, you get a bottle of VO and that little ribbon around the band.
Yeah.
You put that on your collar and you wear it through the buttonhole. And then there's a short timer, and every day you just cut a little piece off.
Oh, really?
You see somebody walking around with a VO ribbon on their, that's a short, he's going home.
He's going home.
That's a short timer.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
But from the time you got there till you got down to the 100-day mark, one day was the same as the next, but you're two-digit midget, 99 dathen because you knew about when you were supposed to go home.
Yeah.
It didn't always work out that way. Mine was a little longer, but you kind of knew you were going home, and then the guys have the little. See somebody wearing that VO, there's somebody going home.
Oh my goodness gracious! Did now you trained when you went and set this network up? I mean, you're training people. Did it get frustrating? I mean, was it?
No, pretty much so, because it was all U.S. personnel. They had all do the basics radio stuff. It's just showing them how we do and what we do, and how to coordinate with the pilots so they would follow the procedure and mark the target and tell you where it was. If they put it on the spot, then the enemy know that's where it's going to be. So I'm going to be,
okay,
so much to the left, to the north, or wherever you'd I'm using green smoke on this one or white smoke, because then sometimes they try to, you throw white smoke out, then they throw the same thing down, the fire's coming in, hey, which one do I go to?
Okay.
So they might drop two, they got the white one and the green one, we're going so far this side of the green or whatever, and kind of give them a little better directions, because then we would throw a smoke bomb out there, and which is the target.
Yeah, no, and I can see where they would adapt. They were well known for
very adaptable.
Yeah, very much so. When you're coming home, you're getting on the plane, and your friend had already been had killed. Little apprehensive about.
I was
on the lookout.
Thinking about that. Yep.
On the lookout for. Well, I mean, every day is kind of
Well, the plane would do. They'd have incoming troops that were rotating in, and they'd come in and come off. They're all shiny uniforms and not knowing what's going on, and then you put your urine and you're going back, and they unload the luggage, load your luggage up, refuel the plane, everything, and get it ready to go to come back home.
So you left. It was hot.
Yep.
And where did you fly into? Oakland?
Flew into Seattle again.
Oh, Seattle.
Seattle.
Okay. A long plane ride, isn't it?
We stopped at Japan, and then from Japan, you're going a little way, just kept going. I remember the hours, but it was like 16 hours. You just kept flying and flying. And
was this a commercial airline?
Yeah, it was commercial airlines that were chartered by the government.
So the
only people on it were military people, either going or coming.
Okay.
And as soon as the plane took off, this is it, everybody cheer, and this is I'm going home.
Yeah. So as soon as it left the ground.
That was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Freedom Bird is the term that.
Yeah, you're going back to the world.
Going back to the world.
Going back.
Oh, okay.
Going back to the world. Yep.
So when you got back home, plane come in and landed.
Then the fun started, because again, you didn't have a lot of money, and if you could fly standby, airlines were good. If you get a seat on standby, it was real cheap, a couple of bucks as compared to buying a ticket or something.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of people going, and I got there, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and couldn't get on. Well, the next morning, I'm still in Seattle trying to get out of there.
Still in the terminal?
Still in the terminal, and some guy came up to me and says, "You're still here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm getting close to the top of the list, but I'm still here." And he said, I didn't really want to go to Chicago anyway, so he gave me his ticket. He just handed me his ticket, which was kind of unheard of back then, somebody being that kind.
Wow. Now you're in uniform?
In uniform, yeah.
Okay. I mean, now this is what, 1968?
69. This is August of 69.
Still no trouble?
Well, I didn't have too much trouble at the airport, but when you got home and you started looking for work and something, then the problems would come up there. But my problem was just trying to afford a ticket to go home.
Do you remember his name?
No, I don't know if you guys. We had talked, and he's back the next morning. He was like a traveling salesman, and he knew we were going. She says, I didn't really want to go to Chicago, and he handed me his ticket and kind of disappeared. And
got on a plane with your gear and headed back.
Plane and went home. Yeah.
Wow, a nice random act of kindness.
Yeah,
I mean, that was wonderful for somebody to do that.
So I got to.
Wow, paying it forward even back then.
Yeah.
Some guy that was he older? I mean, he was older than you.
Oh yeah, probably maybe 30s, 40s, something like that. But he did a lot of traveling, and I was still there.
Well, yeah. Well, he'd seen you the day before.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So after I got talking, we were talking a little bit, and I'd seen him, and then so he gave me his flight. So I got into Chicago, and from there they had a bus used to run down the Grange Road, so I took the bus from the airport down to near the house and walked the last couple of blocks, and I was home.
Did your mom and dad know you were coming home?
Yeah, didn't know just what time or when, because how the planes were going to fly. So we got home and everything.
Oh, good.
I was home for a couple of weeks and went down to Scott Air Force Base and finished up my time.
Did you? Was there? I know now that you're back home. Was there any other stories from Vietnam when you were in country? I mean, any? You see any tigers? I mean,
no, I didn't.
Okay. Could you hear them at night?
Not where I was. No.
Okay. Okay.
Just to smell the stuff, and I said, it was destruction, but it was kind of pretty when you see the bombs coming and stuff, and the fireworks from that, and that's why I don't get too excited about 4th of July, because it's pretty, thing. But you've seen the real thing.
And they do cause a lot of destruction, and the fireworks are shooting off out, and of course there's human destruction going along with.
And any place you went, you had your rifle. You didn't go take a shower. But outside that, if you went somewhere, anywhere you went, you had to have your flak vest, your helmet, and your rifle was with you at all times. You never know when you might need it.
You mentioned when you got back home as far as work. Now you got back home. Parents had a nice homecoming for you.
Yep, had a little party and everything.
Now your brother and sister, they're a little bit old now. They're a couple years older.
Well, they were happy to see me.
Were they?
And I'd gone back to the Sears, and the store in LaGrange had shut down. They weren't there anymore. They offered me a job at another store doing something different. And I didn't really want to do that. I got to find something else here, so I wound up getting in with another company, and I worked for them for many years.
Did you ever go back to school?
No, I never got back. I just, met my wife. I got out and back to duty in February, and we met in April and got engaged in June and got married in October, and 44 years later we're still together, but I never got back to school.
Now, were you when you were in Vietnam, were you ever on a big enough base that it had a USO show?
I wasn't one way, no.
Okay.
Because they had them on the air base, but we were out in the boonies sort of, and they didn't.
You were actually in the field most of the time, so you spent pretty much your Vietnam tour in the field.
In Vietnam, yes.
Yeah, and wasn't that one of the bases? When you were overseas, did you get a chance to call home or write or?
What I did is after you were there, I think it was 6 or 8 months, you could get what they call R&R, and you could go to Hawaii, you could go to Australia or to Hong Kong. And most of the married guys were going to Hawaii because then they could see their wife. And I figured Australia is safe, I can always go there. So I went to Hong Kong. And what was beautiful about that was the rate of exchange at the time was 18 to 1. So one US dollar got you 18 Hong Kong dollars. Things were inexpensive to start with. So without spending a whole lot of money, you lived good for a week.
Wow.
That was beautiful.
Wow. So hotels, and you got yourself a hotel room and and enjoyed the nightlife.
I told you to stay away from here and here, but the rest of it was fine. And I had my I forget what year it was, but I had my birthday. And it was on the 25. I think it was 25. I had spent my 25th birthday in Hong Kong, and it was like a floating barge was the restaurant. And took a 3-hour tour of Hong Kong Harbor.
Oh wow!
And it was late afternoon in the sunset. We actually got to see the sunset and that, and had no idea what you're reading. But all right, there was a bunch of guys that were all sitting there, and on this boat just wandering around Hong Kong Harbor, and that's how I had my 25th birthday.
Oh wow! Eating local cuisine and drinking local beer.
And I had they told me a couple places to go to get clothes, and I had a couple of suits made, and they did not measure. These two guys, one would write, he look at you, and he would just dribble something, and the guy went back a couple days later to pick it up. It fit perfect, better than somebody that's measuring and tailoring. They just, how they did that, I have no idea.
Years of practice.
But they got that done, and because they had copies of orders to go back, we went to the Navy FPO up there. He gave them stuff with the orders. They would pack it and ship it to San Francisco, and you only paid the cheap postage rate from San Francisco to Chicago.
Oh my!
So it cost hardly anything.
Yeah.
But what it did cost, in most cases, cost you more than the items were sent home.
To ship.
You could get watches and anything you wanted. It was, they had the stores there, and they had it's like a PX, was a Navy one. They had all kinds of stereo equipment and speakers and this and that, and it's like,
cheap price, ship it home.
cheap price, shipping home, and it didn't cost a lot.
Well, now you got a couple suits. Did you get anything else you bought?
Yeah, I got some stereo equipment, bought some watches. I got my mom a set of dishes, and there's just a lot of nice stuff. Some of the guys buying cameras and that, but I didn't get a camera.
What a good son, shipping dishes back for your mom.
When I got home, the mailman said, "Boy, am I glad you're home. You're killing me with this. Every kill you get a box or something, And sometimes it didn't make it, but I was fortunate. Everything I sent back, made it. It took sometimes weeks and weeks because it went bulk mail and there was no priority on it. So when this post office would get it to the next stop, and it took forever to get home there, but
nothing was broken.
Everything made it. Nothing was broken. I was very fortunate in that.
Did your mom keep her dishes all the way through?
Oh yeah, matter of fact, she died here in January, and I got them back. So I got
really?
They're what's it, Noritaki or something? It's a name brand deal, and it's still got the gold leaf on it. We can't use it in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And they're still beautiful.
Wow.
She'd use those things all the time.
You got classic pieces right there.
Yeah.
Wow, how about that? Any of the watches still work? Or?
No, they're long gone.
Some things do last.
Yeah.
Oh. Now, while you were in country, a lot of pictures? When you take a lot
of... Well, I had mostly slides. Some of the slides I've converted to pictures, but I've got a real good selection of slides.
From the country and from friends?
And from Hong Kong and stuff and that.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we'd be flying around and you're hanging out the side of a C-47 with just a strap on you, and you're laying out there and taking a picture of the,
Really?
You see the B-52, those carpet bombing, they just blast a wide and long area. Just everything's a crater. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, and you're up above them.
And we happen to be flying for whatever reason. We're flying around, but sometimes we just fly and you happen to see us. So you lean out there, hook a strap on, and we're young and crazy and hanging out the side of the plane taking pictures. And,
oh my goodness! Now these were Kodak cameras.
And you get the film developed. In this case, instead of pictures, I took slides.
Yeah.
And so I got the slide projector. I picked that up, and that still works. Every once in a while, we'll pull the slides out and we'll watch them at home.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Kids say, "Gee, that was your dad." Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, way back then. You were always supplied good out in the field when you were in Vietnam?
Yeah, we didn't have any problems.
You didn't have anything at all?
Oh no, we were doing good there. We had a radio, and can't
go wrong.
Couldn't mess up on that.
You were in communication.
Yes.
You came back home. You've got you a job. How was the readjustment period?
Well, looking for a job, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I was checking other things out. In a lot of places you would go. This is before everybody had to be politically correct, and they'd ask you in a job interview, "Well, how many people did you kill today?" And and what was your and just goofy stuff like that. Did you walk up and shoot anybody? And back then you could ask questions like that, and nobody, you were fair game. And so a lot of places, just on the interview, I'd never went back. You can get lost. That's where you're going to be. And
my goodness gracious,
really. I was fortunate in the fact I didn't have people at the airport, walking on. A lot of people were getting spit on and stuff thrown at them. Stuff. Fortunately, I didn't hit that at the time I was in the day I spent at Seattle trying to get home. But it was going on, and there were a lot of problems.
Oh, 69, yes, absolutely it was.
And for the longest time, when you talk about it, just kind of, just goes there, and I know a couple of my friends, they'll hear the fireworks and they're looking for a place to hide or something. I don't have those problems, but I just see the fireworks. Okay, it just doesn't do anything to me because I've seen the real thing, and this little puff of red and green is pretty, but
But it brings back those memories, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then every once in a while, how come I made it and the other two guys didn't? That's you got to kind of wonder about that.
Well, that's.
We grew up together, and all three went over there, and one out of three came back, so I had good odds. But I survived. I came back.
Yeah, and they lucky or whatever word they use for it. That's just the way the life that hand was dealt. I mean. And the survivor's guilt that they talk about. Yes,
it could have been any one of us, but
but it wasn't. You came back and got married, had a family, readjusted well then.
Yeah, pretty much so.
No nightmares, anything ever crop up.
Just many years later, I wound up with heart attack and all kind of medical problems, and it was all traced back to exposure to Agent Orange.
So the VA had been taking care of you then?
Oh yeah, I've been fortunate. I've had been taken pretty good care of, and just a couple months ago I found out I had prostate cancer, which is there are like 15 ailments you can have that directly relate back to Agent Orange, and I've got a whole bunch of them.
Oh my!
I got I had a heart attack, and I've had diabetes, and this and that, and now the prostate cancer, and it's all.
Sorry to hear that. They're treating you well though, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Heinz has been taking real good care of me.
Heinz is a good place.
Yeah.
Nice area. There's a Fisher House. They just opened up
Yes.
on Heinz.
But then we had some friends. My wife doesn't like to drive, so we had some friends that she stayed with when I was in the hospital, and they drove her back and forth and stuff. So we had, in that regard, been fortunate and lucky about it. But still, every day you got, and kind of to remind me every day that I still got all these problems. I still wear one of my dog tags.
Really?
Just a constant reminder that you go to get now. You can't have that donut. You can't because you're diabetic and you got to watch what you eat. So constant reminder to help me stay on the straight and narrow. And
that's good.
Try to avoid problems.
That's good. That's good to have something like
yeah.
that. How long were you back before you? When did you join the Legion?
Well, when I came back in August of '69, I was home. I went down in September to Scott Air Force Base, and right outside of Scott Air Force Base, you've got a VFW post. So my grandfather was VFW. He was in World War I and that. And I was a kid. He'd always take me to the different functions and stuff. So I went down to the VFW to join up. Well, this is for war veterans. That's a police action. You can't join. So heck with you guys.
Really?
So I went down the street to the American Legion. Well, no, we don't want to sign you up because then you sign up and you got to go move or go transfer or something. And they wouldn't even talk to me. So I kind of just said the heck with both of you guys. And well, 40 years ago would have been what, 1974. Mm-hmm. A good friend of ours, my wife and Doris, went to school together. We still keep in touch and everything. And her husband and I got, we started doing stuff as couples and that, and he'd always disappear on a Friday night to go to the Legion meeting. So why don't you join? Well, so I joined the Cicero post, the Legion. I've been with them 40 years now. And you may know George Kramer. He was national commander. Well, George was the state commander at the time. He called me up one day. He said, did you get that letter I sent you? I said, yes, I did. He says, what'd you do with it? I said, I threw it out. He said, what? I said, I told him I went there and you guys nothing to do with me. Heck, nothing to do with the VFW. So I threw the letter out. He says, I'll ask you one more question before we hang up, okay? I said, all right. He says, how long are you going to stay mad? He said, I'm gonna say the guy's name is Frank. I'm gonna send him over. He'll come by and see you. He'll call you up, come by and see you. And you really need to join the VFW. Yeah. Well, so 40 years later, I'm VFW too.
Okay.
But it just how long are you gonna stay mad? And what they did was wrong, But there's like in the Grange and the Legion, the Grange World War I veterans started post 41. They wanted nothing to do with World War II, so the Grange has post 1941. Mm-hmm. 1941 kind of accepts Korea and Vietnam, but they want nothing to do with anybody else. And as the old timers are dying off, that post is folding because they wouldn't show anybody or train. Hey, we built this post. If it falls, that's ours. You go build your own. And to this day, they still, they're great people, but they just that was their mindset.
There's some of that mentality out there. I've heard that some of the veterans will say the last real war was WWII.
Yeah.
And then they're in trouble, and it's all a big family. I mean, the Legion's a big family.
So.
The
when the branches of the service get together,
yes, indeed.
Kid each other out, but it's one U.S. military. But a lot of people don't think of that.
Were they having any the radio operators that you served with? Do they ever have reunions?
They may. I haven't been involved in anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you spoken or kept in touch with anybody that you served with?
One of the guys, we've lost track over the years, but one of the guys I was with a lot, he stood up in our wedding, we stood up at his wedding, but he was out in California. We live here, so as time went on, we got down to, instead of visiting, got down to phone calls and Christmas cards, and now every once in a while, it's been a couple of years since he's contacted me or I've contacted him, but.
Life marches on. That's.
Meantime, I got involved with the American Legion, the VFW, and all this other stuff, and that's kind of.
Did your career help you? I mean, the regimentation that you learned in the military?
Yeah, I think it did, because you learn discipline, and I can hate that. You know, some of the stuff you had to eat and drink, it's, you were not to be so fussy.
Well, then that it kind of changed your outlook on life.
Yeah.
I mean, some things are not as important as, you know, you're out in the jungle, your life could end in, you know, a split second. You know, getting the yard mowed, yeah, I'll get to it. That's not a, you know, the front of the house looks bad. Well, you know, yeah, it's not life threatening. So, you know, and like you said, it is a life changing thing. It's good. It sounds like you've had a very interesting life, Vic.
Oh yeah, it's been a long one, a good one, and
good.
To get involved before I had gone into the Air Force. I lived in LaGrange Park, and they had LaGrange Park Civil Defense Fire and Rescue, and I was on that, and that evolved into the fire department stuff. So when the military got away from it, and you had to own a home in town to be on the fire department, so we rented for a while, and we bought a house there and everything. And one night, cold and snowy out there, and a neighbor's house is on fire. So I went out to see what's going on, and I'd known the fire chief because he was chief for 40, 50 years, something like that. And he said, "I want to see you Thursday night." Yeah, all right. So I go home, I told him about the neighbor's house fire. And, oh, by the way, I just joined the fire department. You what? Well, you know, he was no guilt for a long time now, and so then I did that for 23 years until we moved, because he had to live in town. So we were in town for another 23 years, and I spent it on the fire department. And that was fun. It was a volunteer deal. I paid a couple bucks for calls and stuff, but I did that for 23 years. And what I miss most about that is in October when they would have the fire safety and stuff, and you'd either go visit the kids in school or the kids that come down to the firehouse. So I'd always take a week's vacation, and Fire Safety Week I'd spend with the fire department.
Oh,
that was always fun. But you know, I hate to leave it, but you move on from that, and you know, another phase of the life behind, just like the military. You kind of go on and stay involved with what you can.
My goodness, Vic, it's been so interesting talking to you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to in military or life or?
No, I don't think so. I just, you know, the only question that keeps coming up is, you know, how come I made it and the others you didn't? Because we're all like three musketeers, always together doing everything, and also, you know.
You still have them in memories, though.
Oh yeah. You know, when we have the traveling walk, I've been to Washington D.C. and seen their names up there, and anytime a traveling walk comes in the area, we go there, and unfortunately, I know kind of where to look for. I haven't made an etching of the name or anything, but I know this one's here and this one's here, and I can pretty much go right up to it and find it with that.
And that is something I've watched several people do that when we've been at the wall. They have that nice piece of paper. They paste it, they put it up there, and you just rub up against and peel that off there. And
it took me a long time to get to the wall in the first place. Yeah. But I forget which convention we went to. We went to one of the American Legion National Conventions, and it was near, that was the one in Baltimore or Washington, somewhere we were there. It wasn't that far, that much out of the way, so we took a side trip and went to Washington, and I finally got to see the wall. But yeah, that's
it's very moving.
No, yes.
Very, very moving. I've been there myself several times, and it's very moving. You're touching history.
Yes.
You're touching history. And a lot of this right here, this is part of it. I'm so glad that you decided to.
I kept thinking about, well, what am I going to say? And I said, well, that's the gal was up on the stage this morning, and she said, you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for, you know, your family and your grandkids and stuff like that. So
you did well, man.
I did.
Wasn't painful.
No.
You did very well. If if you've got anything more to add, we can.
No, that's about everything.
Well, I'll tell you what. Welcome home.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay.
Very good.
Now you can rest your fingers.